Hello and welcome to Home Life for Extraordinary Impact. On this show, you'll get to witness raw, in-the-moment research that I'm doing with experts and everyday people all around the world. What am I researching? One central question: how do you design your life at home for growth, connection, and making your greatest impact in the world? On this show, we'll do research, and you can follow along with my analysis and my findings at the Home Life Design Lab newsletter. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. I'm Matt Barrios. I'm a dad, a husband, a writer, and a researcher. I'll be your host today as we're exploring what home looks like for my guest. Her name is Lidia Olivucci. She is currently, chatting with me from a town outside of Bologna, Italy. And I was just so excited to chat with you again, Lidia. We talked a while back, and I thought you would be an interesting person to chat with about this because I know you're a person who not only are you Italian and what is home like there, but you've also lived in different places in Europe as well. And I just thought that mixed with the fact that you are a designer, you're a person who thinks about beauty, design, functionality, and so on and so forth, would make you a natural guest on this show as I do global research on designing your home life. So thank you for being a part of it. And what is it, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself and me and the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Matt, for having me. It's really an honor because I always wanted to speak to a podcast, and I kind of feel, I don't know, a dream of mine just came true, but thank you for having me, really. So I'm a young graphic designer. I just graduated last September, so I'm really fresh out of uni. And you said it right. I'm from Italy, and I studied in Milan. So my degree was mainly in Milan. And I also lived in Glasgow for a year on an exchange study program. Well, I would say that design is my main interest at the moment. But I do also some photography on the side. So that's like my kind of go-to when I want to relax and just distract myself, I guess. I also maybe something interesting for our subject today, home life, is that for me the home is really important place because I am kind of introverted, so that's my place,
Mm-hmm. You like being home because, it's a place to have for yourself. And it sounds like you're also just a person very wired for creativity and in your line of work and your hobbies, photo design. And I do think like home actually holds a very special place for the introverted creative person, right? Who wants to produce some work that they find valuable and all of that. So would you tell us a little bit about the different places you've called home, over the course of your life?
Yeah. So that's interesting because in the last 3/4 years, I've moved quite a lot, and I almost always have to start from scratch. So starting again with a new home life, a new group of people to live with. So that has been really enriching for me, and I would talk to you about my university flats. So I would say I lived mainly in 3 flats over the course of the past years, and 2 of them were in Milan. The first one, I remember in the first one, I learned for the first time how to organize my home life. It was the first time that I was away from my family, the first time that I was away from my childhood home. I was in a new city. I didn't know anyone. So that home life really taught me how to take care of myself on my own, how to cook on a daily basis for myself.
Sure.
I had my own space. My flatmate was really busy, so I was really lonely. I remember it to be a really lonely time for me, but positively and negative, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that would be the home life that taught me how to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
The second one in Milan was a flat where that I shared with 3 other girls, and that's probably my most my nicest memory because it was the first time that I had a group of people to come home with in the city that I was trying to I was trying to build my identity, and for the first time, I learned about the importance of people and the home. So we would organize these little dinners together, having daily chats about our lives, supporting each other, laughing. And even if I didn't have much space to myself, it was really enriching because I learned how to communicate with people. Can you please clean the dishes?
Yeah.
Things like that. That made me feel a bit weird sometimes, but yeah. So I learned to share home with people I didn't know, and that was really interesting. Also, it was during the time of lockdown, mainly. So
Yeah.
it was really nice because we created this environment of support and let's help each other to not feel too bad about what's happening at the moment. And that was really, really good. Then I moved to Glasgow for a year, and I moved to another flat. I had to start from scratch again, as you didn't know. So I was sharing the flat with just one person that then became my partner. So in this home was probably the home that I felt most responsible for. Because I had the bills on my name, and there was another level of responsibility. At the end of the tenancy, I had to make sure that everything was cleaned, perfectly, and something I never had to do. So I also understood how important for creating a good home life was to decorating the space, for example, even if I knew that it would have been for a limited amount of time. Because in my previous experiences, I was like, I'm gonna be here for just a year. Like, what's the point in decorating on hanging pictures? That time I did, and it was really helpful for me to feel home, to create a healthy home life, I think.
And that's cool. Gosh, I mean, thank you for the flyover of like these different places. And it sounds like there were basically like lessons for you in each of these environments, right? Like where, and I mean, I like that season of life when you're in university, you're in college or whatever, you're like away from home for the first time, away from like your parents or whatever it might be. At least, that was my experience. And it felt like this is an opportunity to almost become myself, right? And it's like, oh, this is the home where that's going to happen, the people that's going to happen with. Here's the things I'm going to learn, everything from cooking for myself to paying bills and everything, right? So that's just like such a ripe experience, where I could just see so clearly, and I think we're sort of connecting the dots there between these environments you were living in, these homes that you were living in, and this like identity formation that was going on. Like, who are you as a person? Now thinking about just like these three things, what did you discover about who you are, after, going through university in these three different places?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's definitely been a huge help to build my identity. I feel probably I started to build my own identity, my own real identity, when I moved out of my family home, because it was like kind of entering in this adult life. Obviously I wasn't an adult yet, a full adult yet, but it was entering that world and discovering how I could make certain things that before then I just saw adults do, for example. So it definitely changed me in a way that I became more. I discovered how strong I can be in some situations, and that I can deal with stuff and I can deal with problems on my own. I can. If someone is doing something they don't like, I can talk to them and figure it out. So also on the relationships that you develop with people, I learned a lot with that as well. And definitely, I learned about myself that I'm someone who really values kind of a space for myself in the home, but also I value meaningful connections. So personality-wise, I would say I discovered that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. The the introvert who still wants to be really connected to people, right? Yeah, that makes sense to me. When you talk about like having space for yourself, what does that like practically look like, in your space? Like what do you try to do to protect space for yourself?
Okay, so I would say for me is about sometimes just I know that sounds weird, but I mean it doesn't sound weird because everyone does that, but uh, maybe it's kind of sad. I don't know, but I what I do is what I just do sometimes is just I just sit by myself and on the bed or whatever, and I just scroll my phone,
Yeah.
just having that pressure lifted off your shoulders that you don't have to do anything but just scroll your phone.
Yeah.
And obviously, when it's too much, it's too much. But
Sure, sure.
sometimes at the end of a hard day, you just wanna, it's like a bit turning on the TV and just not really paying attention to it, but you're just there, staring at that. So sometimes it looks like that. Some other times, maybe I read something or I watch a movie by myself. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds to me, I mean, everything you're describing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I do too. It's like end of a day, I'm just like, what's happening on Instagram, right? Let's check that out for a while. Or, what's happening on Netflix, right? And even to the point where it's actually not even necessarily about paying close attention to it. It's just about like a mental break, or maybe
Yeah.
one way I might describe it, and I wonder if it's true for you, but is actually just having a moment where you kind of get to kind of control your own moment, right? Like you're not in anybody else's time. This is your time. Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, definitely. I totally relate to what you're saying. Yeah, I guess it's that feeling of just knowing that you can do whatever you want because you don't have to ask. You don't have to meet anyone's expectations. You don't have to make sure that everyone is having fun. You don't have to, make sure that the other person is, not bored or anything. So you just you just flow
Yeah, yeah,
with yourself,
yeah. I get that.
Yeah, that's
You flow with yourself,
that's
do
very
your own
recharging, of
thing.
course.
Yeah, yeah, recharge for a while. That's really helpful. And I think it is like recharging for that other part that you mentioned that's valuable to you, which is meaningful connection with people. What's the shape of meaningful connection for you? What does that look like in your home?
So yeah, meaningful connection for me probably I think means having conversations where we are really talking to each other from a personal level, not just having small talk. How are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. That kind of interactions are. I don't know. Sometimes maybe they feel a little bit fake. And what I like in a home life is I like to be able to share on a deep level with people what I'm experiencing, what is worrying me, maybe, or what is making me happy, and also support each other really for real, and help people in any way I can at the moment. So for me, it looks like support and sharing
Yeah, yeah.
on from the truth, from a personal level, not just surface level kind of interactions, if that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. It's about like a real authentic connection taking place in regard to there's deep sharing happening, perhaps like sharing what you're feeling, sharing where you need help, sharing where you're really happy and delighted, but being able to like share something that's like very truly what you're experiencing. And I'm getting a little flashback to the way you're describing your relationship with your flatmates going through lockdown. Like it sounds like there was some I mean, in some ways, I'm so glad you had that because there's no way out. Like that's what you got right during that time. Like in some ways, it'll put you in a situation where you better discover that, or it's going to be like a really hard relationship with the people who you live with. And yeah. So
Yes.
is that what you were experiencing then with them?
Yeah, I would say probably I feel really, I mean, to sum it up, I feel extremely lucky for the experience that I had during lockdown, because I never felt a day sad for what was happening. I mean, obviously, I was sad because all these people were dying, all these families were being broken down by the virus. But on a personal level, with my life, I didn't feel I was struggling as much as people that were living alone were doing, or people that were maybe trapped, let's say, with people that they didn't like, or maybe they had toxic relationships.
Yeah.
So I've been extremely lucky. We basically built this system of having dinner together and partying together sometimes, just sharing everyday life as we were doing before, but together in the same home. So it was almost better in a way than before.
Yeah.
I
think it's, if I could just interject for a second, like, I think it's interesting that you used the word that you built a system for it.
Yeah.
Tell me about that idea. Like, it's a system that you created for your home. Because I think that is an interesting word. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so a system, it was for sure a system because my idea is that there was a structure. So my routine, my everyday routine and their routine was functioning in a way where at the end of the day or for lunch or, there were specific times of the day where our own routines were coming together and meeting every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I call it system because I'm imagining this, kind of lines that connect together at some point and then they drift apart again, and then they create, this system that every day repeats itself, maybe in small different ways, but it was mainly the same kind of system.
That makes sense.
So, yeah. Probably system also because we were our lives were, let's say, very interconnected at that point because of the situation, obviously.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're in like a repeated daily schedule, right? And I'm having my own flashbacks to lockdown, and I spent the first few months of it with my wife and our good friend at my parents' house, and it was like we're all together. We've at that time, like, we could go outside a little bit, and I was still working remote and everything. And what I would do is I would hop on my bike, do my morning bicycle commute around the block, and get right back home in order to like start work, right? Because I was used to doing a bike commute here to the office in San Francisco, right?
Wow.
And then at the end of the evening, like end of the work day, it was happy hour, and we drank wine, and then we had a good meal, and then it was great, I agree with like the way having those systems for your life, those repeated things on rhythm, as if it's music that it's like playing to a certain beat, like, and to do that with people where you come together, playing with that idea of music, maybe it actually creates harmony among people, like a harmonious way of relating to one another. And so that's definitely standing out to me about what you're saying. Does that seem true to you, or what do you think?
Yeah, definitely is what I really relate to what you're saying. I also like the fact that you wanted to continue to bike. That's really interesting. You basically rebuilt your normal routine at home. So you biked at home instead of biking outside.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It was really helpful. So I don't know. I feel like us talking about pandemic and lockdown is probably the sort of stuff that everybody can think of, like what it was like to go through that situation in the world. And we were really kind of stuck in our homes, and it really clearly showed what's going well, what's not going well with our home. And I'm glad that you had a really positive experience with that.
Yes, definitely. For example, in my first flat that I described just before, there I spent the first part of lockdown before moving to the second flat with with more people. And that first experience really showed me what was wrong with my own life, because my flatmate was chemist, so she worked every day outside of the home, even if it was COVID outside. So I was really lonely, and I met her only at night. So I remember feeling really, really lonely during the day. And even if I have had a really healthy routine, because every morning I like did yoga and stuff, but that really rang a bell in me, and there I really realized how important it is to just be able to talk to someone during the day, because otherwise I think you kind of go crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The opportunity to like still be connected, is important. And loneliness it's debilitating, it's really hard. And I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we are social animals at the end of the day.
yeah, we
need
no matter
connection.
how introverted we may be, right? Like we still want to have some people to talk to, right? Yeah. I want to take this in, maybe a little bit of a different direction. So you are a graphic designer. You've been a person who has been invested in design. I also feel like Italy as a country actually has like a reputation for being like a design-minded country in the world, right? Like you've got the fashion center in Milan. You've got, all these, fancy cars coming out of Italy and everything.
Yeah.
Amazing artwork from the Renaissance and beyond, right? Like there's
Yeah.
a history and tradition around architecture, design, sculpture, everything that exists in Italy. I'm curious, and maybe I'm reading into this too much, but how would you say that your experience as like an Italian woman, right? Like what that looks like for you to be, kind of in your home, right? Like from that kind of design angle. Yeah.
Okay, so do you mean if this kind of taste knowledge that I have impacts how I perceive my home and my space?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's interesting. Actually, yeah, I would say that had a really great impact on me. Well, even if I'm not an interior designer, for example, I do have standards. I do have also when I would say a turning point for me was when at uni I did an exam on a history of design, and there I learned about history of design from the first productive chair, the Tone chair. I don't know if you know about that, but
I don't.
basically the first ever design chair was the most famous one, at least, is this chair that was made from wood and was bent with hot hair, right? And I don't know, before knowing that, I would have looked at that chair and be like, what's nice about that,
Sure.
It's not that good looking. But then, as soon as I did that exam and I learned all about all these design products that have been in history, I'm like, that chair is amazing. That chair is really beautiful, and I want to have that in my home. So
Yeah.
I think now what changed is like, probably I'm way more aware about how I want my space to look like, first of all. And that for sure. And from the Italian point of view that you were saying, I would say that we Italians are probably we have, not everyone obviously, because everyone's different, but I think the way we are used to see things, we have these beautiful cities and art. I think we are really sensitive to art in general. So I think we like to have a beautiful space around us, for sure.
Yeah. Would you tell me a little bit about, your visual taste for the way that you like to decorate your home?
Okay. Yeah. So in the past, I would have said, I'm pretty minimalistic. I want to have, that neat space and neutral colors and stuff. But now lately, I think I'm more going towards having modern looking, so clean shapes and, you know, not like simple shapes, I would say. Colors, like not kind of not patterns or anything, but like full colors. But I'm really now I'm really really attentive to the color interactions. So I want to have, for example, if I have something red, I cannot have some color that doesn't go well with red, for example, in my taste, maybe.
Sure.
So I would say colors is my main focus right now, and as in shapes, probably kind of simple, kind of looking. So I'm still a bit minimalistic, but I do like to have more stuff around. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So there's like in terms of like, the shape, these kind of clean lines and that kind of thing, the structure, a little bit more minimalistic or modern, right?
yeah.
But you also like
But I like
color and,
contrast.
yeah, but you like what?
But
I'm
I
sorry.
also like contrast. So
Oh yeah.
to these minimalistic shapes, I like to have more complex shapes, I guess. So kind of more like pop culture lamps, or I don't know if you know the brand Saletti.
I don't know.
So Saletti is an Italian brand, interior design Italian brand, and they do this pop culture kind of furniture pieces. So, for example, they have this lamp, a table lamp that is the cut off head of a Greek statue with a balloon out of his mouth, kind of chewing gum balloon, you know. And inside this balloon, there's a lamp,
Wow.
and you know, the bulb of the lamp.
Wow.
So I like that weird stuff too.
That makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah, I mean, like the value for contrast, like that is not what I'm thinking about when I think about, clean minimal lines or something. And then like this bubblegum Renaissance statue that's lit up, right? Like it's a very different feel.
yeah,
That sounds like a brand worth checking out. It seems like they too are also playing with contrast between, something old or traditional with something popular.
yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I
Oh,
love
that's
that.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like it would create a lot of intrigue for somebody who's like visiting for the first time. Like, what is that? You tell me about that, and a little bit of delight for you on a regular basis to have something like that in your home, huh?
yeah. Definitely could be also a conversation starter. You know, you just have that in your home, and maybe someone comes in and it's like, oh my god, that's weird. What's that? You know? Yeah,
All right, so I'm also interested in, like the rhythms of life for, people in Italy. What are the rhythms or routines of home? Like, do you have a normal like morning coffee? Do you have a normal thing that you do at sunset or sunrise? Whatever it might be, things that you do week by week. Yeah, what comes to mind for routines for you?
so that's really interesting, actually. Well, thinking about it, I think there are mainly, from my experience, from having grown up in a little town on the countryside and having, you know, studied in a big city, I noticed that families and people in general in the countryside and little towns are more likely to have these, lunch together, all the family gathered, dinner together, all the family gathered, every day or almost every day. So yeah, so I think there's more kind of a sense of family community, having those, you know, traditions respected together. While in the city, you know, people tend to be more busy. They have a lot, maybe a very busy work schedule. They do different type of jobs. So there are also more single people, maybe, or smaller families. So I think I noticed that in that case, people usually have dinner together just at night, or if ever, you know, while at lunch is usually everyone just does his own thing. Yeah, I would say so. I would say, yeah, probably people, home lives in these big cities are way more similar to life in big cities everywhere in the world. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because obviously, with, globalization and all of that, I think our lives, and especially maybe if you work for an international company, like I think your daily life, your daily home life will look like very similar also to a lot of countries. And but in terms of, maybe you were also asking about like small things that Italians do during the day.
Yeah.
Probably uh that's interesting because I never thought about it, but I think we like to have, um well, in Italian we call that happy hour or aperitivo, and it means basically on Friday night, on Friday evening, let's say after work, or any evening after, just after work, you go to a bar and or a cafe, and you order just a tiny cocktail, and in the price of the cocktail is included some snacks, some crisps, and you just enjoy the chat with your friend or with your coworker, and you do that. Yeah, I would say for someone my age or a little bit older also, that's a really, really regular thing. So we like to slow down and just enjoy that at the end of the day.
Sure, sure. This is like your chance to. It's almost like the workday's over. Let's go home. Let's have a quick cocktail and catch up for a little bit. And yeah, that sounds really delightful. And I think especially for people who are working remote, working from home, for a global company or something like that too, are they also still like kind of like, okay, let's go grab a cocktail. Let's get out of the house for a sec or something like that too.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, exactly. I think is mostly common for people that work in the office, and then with the coworkers, they're like, oh, let's just, on our way home, let's just stop to that cafe and just grab a drink. But I definitely see potential for someone who works from home too. I think that that's is really a healthy habit to have, especially if you work from home. Definitely, yeah.
That's cool. I love it. It feels like, I wonder, as I'm doing this research globally, how many people, how many cultures have the happy hour aperitivo kind of thing, and there might be actually quite a lot because it
Yeah.
is just like a delightful ritual for life. So now I want to do another kind of set of questions, maybe like a contrast, because I know you're interested in contrast in your home too. But
Yeah.
like, when home's going great, what does it look like, feel like? When home's not going great, it's gone sideways, it's not looking good. What does it look like?
Yeah. So for me, when home life is going great, it means that it's both a place of growth for me, inspiration, and calmness too. I'm able to be quiet and just to relax, and I can just, yeah, just be myself at the end of the day. But also a place where I can have cultivate and nourish my relationships. So yeah, I would say a place of growth, protection, and a place to invite people over. So what I really like in my home life is when I gather people that I like in my home, and we maybe on a Saturday night or Friday night, and we have these little dinners together. Maybe a beer on the side, and then we just talk and talk, and maybe we put some music on, or we watch an episode of something or a movie, and maybe some interesting conversations spark, maybe not. I would say the dinner part probably is my most favorite one, because I think sharing food with people is really it brings you, I think, closer in a way, because you're sharing an experience. So I really like to make my own life to have that as well, to be the space for that as well, as space for me if I just want to be. and not have any pressure to do anything.
Yeah. So on one hand, there is this part of home going great where you can be at calm, you can be at rest with yourself, be peaceful, have your own time. And also the other side, which is let's throw a dinner party, let's have people over, let's eat some good food, have a beer, hang out, watch a show, have an interesting conversation. And on both sides, like it is about rest and connection and hospitality. So that's your picture of what like a good home looks like. Yeah. And how about on the other side of things when, it's going a little sideways and it's not working so well? What do you think that looks like in contrast?
Yeah. When it works not well is when my life is so stressful. Is so when I'm so stressed out that I lose kind of control of my home space. So when things get really messy and I can't tidy up and I can't clean, or a lot of things are laying around and no one is taking care of them. Basically, when my stressed mind is kind of transferring that messy space to my home, so my mind and my home kind of look alike. That is when it's going bad. So there's always a point where things get so bad that I'm like, okay, you need to do something about this. You need to take a day off and just, tidy up everything, and it feels so much better. So I would say also when I don't have a structured routine. So for too long, for example, when I graduated and then I came back to live in my childhood home because I was looking for jobs, I didn't have a routine anymore, So for years I had this routine of like studying, or working and, really busy all the time. And then just out of the blue, I was, not having any more of that. And I think also that has an impact on me because I am someone that needs a structure. So to enjoy my home life, I need to have, to be busy in some way.
Sure. So you want to be able to be in a home that isn't a mess and that, there's some stuff going on that, you're not bored. It sounds like that's kind of when things are going sideways, it can kind of mess with you and you are out of structure, you're out of consistency, those many things. Yeah. And I think it's actually really clever what you're saying. Like sometimes you just got to take a day off to get that stuff in order. And yeah, as a person who is currently like talking to you from a very, very, very messy home, that sounds like a really good idea. So I've got like a 1-year-old running around and, she's not very good at putting things away yet, it turns out. So.
You have an excuse at least.
Sure. I'm not even owning the mess that I make. So, okay. So, we've had a great, nice long conversation here and we're going to have to wrap up, but thank you, Lidia, for being such an amazing guest and, honest about what home has looked like for you, fresh out of college, out of studying in university and stuff, from this Italian design perspective, enlightening me a little bit about Italian way of life. And it's just been so super fun and rewarding to get to chat with you and learn from you. So thank you for being a part of this. If people are interested in hearing more about who you are, what you're doing, they want to reach out to connect with you, how could they get in touch with you?
Thank you, Matt, really. It's been really a pleasure for me too. So I would say, you can find me on Instagram at LDIA OLVCCI. I know it's complicated, but Matt, I think will
I'll share the link.
So there you can find me, and I occasionally put some photos that I take and from some film photography that I do, and maybe some projects that I will start in the future. And you can of course find me on LinkedIn as well, as Lidia Olivucci.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lidia, for a lovely interview. Always great to chat with you. I will put up a link in the show notes, which goes to a post where you can read more of Lidia's written answers to some of these questions, as well as some other ones that we didn't get to because we're just having such a fun, interesting conversation. And it will also include links to Instagram, LinkedIn, and so on. So that this is all part of a very large project that I'm doing where I'm trying to do original global research on home, the way different people engage their home life all around the world. What could we actually learn from each other about designing a home life that's really functional, great, that we love, that our guests love, That's the project that I'm working on. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, share it with some people, subscribe, review it well on every platform. And also, you can follow along with my write-ups on this on the Home Life Design Lab newsletter. To sign up for that, just go to homelifedesignlab.com. You'll be able to sign up. You'll be able to get regular, inbox messages more or less once a week for some inspiration about how you can design your home based off of this research that I'm doing, interviewing people around the world. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Thank you again, Olivia, for a great interview, and we'll see you all next time.